Excited for our podcast today. It's been a long time in the making, hasn't it?
It has. We kept harping on about it, and everyone probably thought we were full of shit. But
Yeah. Well, there's a bit of that.
Welcome to the Detailing Down Under podcast, the place for everything auto detailing in Australia right now. Here's your host, Dale Guthrie.
g'day and welcome to the Detailing Down Under podcast. I'm your host, Guthrie, and as always, here with co-host Joe. Good morning, mate. How you going?
Hey, man, I'm really good. Living the
Yeah.
dream up here as always, and really excited for our podcast today. It's been a long time in the making, hasn't it?
It has. We kept harping on about it, and everyone probably thought we were full of shit. But
Yeah. Well, there's a bit of that, but yeah, it took a while for me, mainly me, really, to get my ducks straight and to get things sorted out, and it's finally happened.
Yep. So you've had a fair bit to do with this one, Joe. You know her very well as well. So I'll let you introduce her. So from up your
Awesome.
way.
All right. Well, we've been banging on about getting an accountant on the podcast, and finally we were able to drag one in the studio. Not really, but she's in her studio in her office. So please welcome Caitlin from Cosca Accounting.
Hello, everybody. I'm glad to be here today, finally.
Yeah, thanks for coming. Thanks for joining us, Caitlin. Tell us a little bit about yourself, just so people get an idea of who you are. You haven't just, sprung out of uni and voila, you're on a podcast. Yeah, just give us an idea of who you are and what you do.
Yeah, of course. All right. So basically, I've been in the accounting industry, I'm probably going to say around 14 years now. So started as a young whippersnapper when I was at school, doing your reception role, your filing. And now I've been lucky enough to come up into the partnership role and being one of the owners of the Cosca. So yeah, it's been a fantastic journey over the last 13 or 14 years or so. But yeah, highs and lows, of course. But yeah, it's been great.
Awesome. And let's just give people the idea, like you've been a small business in a small town in the same town as I am in, but you've just done a merger, so now your business has quadrupled, I guess, something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, it's been funny. I'll probably tell you the backstory. So I grew up in Ingham. I was working. So we've got an office in Ingham. That was our founding office there, and met my partner and now husband in Ingham.
Yep.
And his family's from Innisfail, so hence the move up here. We've actually taken over his family's pawpaw farm, which is pretty exciting. I think that's another thing too about me, is that being in the farming industry, you get to know the highs and lows of farming business, which I think a lot of the clients, it really resonates with them when you're a farmer yourself.
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry, side do. But so yeah, I moved up from Ingham to Innisfail, and basically it was pretty cool story. I went to quit really to my bosses at Cosca and said, listen, I'm going to be moving to Innisfail. I've got to go work for another firm. Here's my resignation basically. And they said to me, oh, Caitlin, how about you, go up to Innisfail and have a crack up there, open up an office and see how you go. So lo and behold, I come up here, moved up here, didn't have one client.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think took me about 3 or 4 years, but now we're 15 staff in, probably one of the bigger firms in town, and yeah, it's just gone great guns from there.
Wow.
So yeah, it's just been a crazy journey. Like I said, highs and lows of definitely starting a business. I think in accounting, and as most of you guys probably listening understand, you get a very good relationship with your accountant, and I hope that people do. So trying to get new clients, and especially in a small town, and Joe, you're aware too, like everybody's very cliquey almost, and it takes a lot to get that trust of those types
Mm.
of people, and especially when you're dealing with finances. But yeah, I
Yes.
joined a lot of groups, like networking groups around town, and just, yeah, made a couple of inroads and met a lot of other professionals around town. And it sort of, yeah, went great guns from there. So it's just been a fantastic ride. But in saying that, I wouldn't have had that opportunity if the owners at Cosca at the time didn't back me,
Mm.
Yeah.
and yeah, give me that opportunity. So I'll be forever grateful to those guys for yeah, letting me have a crack, really.
Believing in you and all that, which is
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah,
No, it's good.
Oh, good. That's really good to know. So that really sets the background for people. So today we want to ask you a bunch of questions that hopefully will bring some clarity and some understanding for details in everything around accounting, like tax, superannuation. What to do when our business is growing with our finances.
mm,
What can happen if we do things or if we don't do certain things. So if we can just start with this first question. So if you're starting a detailing business,
yep,
what is the best thing to do financially to set you up on the right path? Like if I'm about to start a detail, I guess it's any business, but especially a
yep.
detailing service-based business.
Yeah, of course. And I think this is one of the questions that I get a lot, and it's great. I love when people come in and chat to me before they start. So I think my biggest recommendation is definitely go and see an accountant or another professional just about the right ways to set things up from the start, because I have a lot of instances where people start in their sole trader, or they start just as a hobby, and it just goes great guns, and then they go and do their tax return at the end of financial year, and they've got a massive tax bill, and they say, oh man, what could I have done better, Caitlin? And setting yourself up in the right tax structure, for one, I think is very, very important. Is one of my number ones, but also number two is making sure you've got the right accounting software in place to make your life easier. So you're not chasing around your receipts, your invoicing. So you're making sure that cash flow's coming in, and yeah, you're looking professional too.
Yeah.
In the ways, so you're not getting your invoice book out and writing those manual invoices out to people. It's just a lot of cool ways that these days, with relevant apps that you can use to make your life easier and make your paperwork and bookkeeping a lot more, yeah, seamless.
What's the this was going to be one of our questions later, but what's your
Mm.
favorite software to use? Like Xero, MyOb, QuickBooks?
Yeah, so I'm a bit of a Zero gal. So funnily enough, just came back from XeroCon last week. So once a year they hold,
Little nerd out.
I know, a little bit of a weirdo, go to XeroCon, and there was over 300 like they have stalls, but it's all the different software that integrates with Xero.
Yeah.
They talked a lot about the AI space and how that's going to be coming in very shortly, but it's just crazy to see what can happen in the bookkeeping and accounting space. And also for us as a business, we need to make sure that we're on board with it, because essentially AI is going to, help a lot of small businesses with their bookkeeping. But it's just like anything, and because I had a couple of girls a little bit worried about AI actually, but I think, and if you're probably like me, always chat GPT or Google if you're sick, you're like Dr. Google, and it
Yeah.
turns out you have to chop your arm off or something like that, worst case scenario, but you always go and see a doctor.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking that, and hopefully in the accounting space as well, people are, they will use that AI tool, but for the advice piece, definitely still need to go and talk to somebody face to face. So yeah, XeroCon was fantastic to see all the new apps and things that they're utilizing. So as a firm, we run off Xero. But in saying that, I don't, not take on clients that are on other
Mm.
software. But when you're an accounting firm, you've got to pick one software to run off.
Yeah.
So yeah, we choose Xero. And
Yeah,
yeah,
cool. I
yeah.
I use it. Do you use it, Dale? What do you use?
The So my wife's very old school. She works for the bank, so I've tried to
Um,
push her into zero and that sort of stuff. She's still believes we're not big enough for that side. So she
Yeah.
runs spreadsheets. She'll literally do half the accountant's job for them by the
oh
time
yeah, yeah, yeah.
she'll just forward everything to them and
Delivered on a silver platter.
pretty much. So
Yeah,
and does each invoice, but because we're
yeah,
sort of not that massive,
yeah,
I've tried it, but that's her side of things. I just let her go. I said I'm not
Yeah.
yeah.
going to
Let it
intrude.
go.
So yeah.
I use Zero, and I really like the new feature of customers can your phone can act as an FPOS machine. So I
Mm,
send them the invoice, and they can pay by card themselves, like not in person. So they can pay by FPOS over the phone, like by card. Sorry, over the internet. Just like you would if you're buying something online, or they do bank transfer, or they can just pay by card in person when they pick their car up, and it reconciles. It does a lot of back end stuff because it's all through Zero. It's not using like a bank FPOS or Tyro or something like that, which is a nice touch.
mm.
Just quickly back to that question, Caitlin. I wanted to ask you, like, where was my questions here? What type of information would an accountant want to know? Like, if I came to you saying, "Hey, I've just started a detailing business and it's actually picking up," what would
Mm.
you want to know from me? Because I'm thinking, like, should I be putting money away? I'm doing about $500 to maybe $1,000 a week. Just say I am doing it on the weekends,
Yep.
and I'm making a little bit more money than maybe I'm not just doing $50 car washes.
Mm.
Yeah, what would you want to know? Because I could be that person that would get that, like, do more than I thought because I've
Yep.
just been blowing it every weekend. I've just been spending all that money.
Yep.
And all of a sudden the ATO want their share.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that's, if I had a dollar for that every time that happened, Joe, you wouldn't, those people aren't in the only one in the boat. So yeah, it's
Yep.
very important that you're keeping track of your income and expenses for one, because especially if you're, doing your detailing job on the weekends and you do have wages outside of doing your detailing. So let's
You
just
have
say,
another job.
that's right. Yeah, you're working 5 days a week for another job and then doing your detailing on the weekend. A lot of people uh, don't realize that when you do your tax return, you've got to add both of those incomes together. Okay, so I had a couple of people just think that, I've got my individual tax return, but then I've got another business tax return. But if you're running under a sole trader or ABN, those incomes actually combine. So,
Yep.
and that's what you get taxed on, right? So if you've already got a high wage from another outside source, then that can hurt potentially if you're up in those high tax rates. So I think, you know, having a holistic approach and looking at everything with your accountant is very, very important, and making sure that, okay, if you're going to be, your wages are going to be roughly this much for the financial year, and we're looking at this much from your detailing business, what sort of taxes are we looking at? And I think that also comes into the importance of tax planning too, Joe. So tax planning is a service that we provide right before the end of financial year. So we get everybody to come in and we estimate what their figures are going to be for that financial year. So I'll say, Joe and Dale, okay, this is what your estimated profits are going to be for, your 26 financial year. What can we do to minimize those taxes? So we're going to use the word minimize, not evade,
Come
but
on.
minimizing taxes.
Dodge.
Minimize,
Dodge.
dodge.
Doing the Matrix. Yeah.
Yeah. So minimizing taxes. So whether that's using different tools like superannuation or purchasing assets or restructuring even. So if we're looking at going from a sole trader to a different entity, how can we decrease those taxes and what are the options to do it? So the other thing too is that essentially my clients are choosing their tax bill.
Yeah.
They know what it's going to be, and then they've got 12 months to save for that. So, because I mean, there's nothing worse. And I know even being in my own business that you do your tax return and they say, oh, you got 10 grand to pay, and then you got to pay that by next week. It's like, holy dooly, where am I getting that money from?
Yeah.
So there's no worse feeling. So I just think making sure that you plan for your end of year taxes and making sure that all your paperwork's up to date. If you're Dale, you got your spreadsheet all looking, Mickey Mouse and where it needs to be so that you can estimate what those taxes are. Because, yeah, biggest thing to remember is that when you're doing your tax return, especially if you're a sole trader, you're looking at all sources of income. So that's from your wages, from your bank interest, any managed funds, rental properties, those types of things. So it's not just, thinking about your car detailing business. You got to think about
Yeah.
it as a whole. So
When should you start doing tax planning? Like 2 months before, 1 month before? Like what's the
I do my tax planning anywhere from April to June of that
okay,
financial year. So at least then
last quarter?
you've got a quarter there to plan, or if you need to purchase anything or, you know,
Good. What
find some things. Yeah. So,
do you reckon, Dale?
Yeah, no, I can relate to all that. As when I started out, I was on a mining wage, still am a little bit, but that has reduced quite a bit. So yeah, we when I was
It's down to
starting out,
300,000 now, isn't it?
we sort of yeah, to reduce that, we were sort of like buying a lot of stuff for detailing and sort of yeah, reducing that detailing income quite a lot, nearly to like the point you're making a loss or you're running out as a loss there for a little bit just to cover all them expenses and bring that income down. So yeah,
mm,
Yeah.
yeah, that's sort of how like yeah, I still am. So that's sort of yeah, can relate to that big time. So
yeah.
100%.
So I got a question for you. We talked about minimizing, not evading, but what if people are evading, like giving out invoices and just
Mm,
doing cashies? Apart from it, I guess like not being legal or like we are legally obliged, is that right, to have to declare
of
income?
course. Yes.
So what are the hurdles that we could face if we're doing that? Like if I'm growing I'm just like detailing on the side, friends, people hear about me, like they just give me cash, hey, $200. Yeah, right, no worries.
Mm.
They know it's on the side, but then it's starting to turn into a business. What are the hurdles I'm going to face, like in just different areas, like financially, setting up my business? Yeah. What do you think's what could happen?
Yeah, I think the biggest risk that you've got there, Joe, is definitely being fined from the tax office. I think the cash society is something that they're really cracking down on at the moment. But I think, for those guys listening, it's important to make sure that you sort of segregate whether you are in a hobby or if you are in a
Yeah.
business as well. So make sure that you do go and get financial advice around that, talk to your accountant to see the different rules as to whether you are in a business or if it is just a hobby. But yeah, definitely just the risk about being fined, and the ATO are not nice when you get an audit, that's for sure. It's
Right. And what about like in regards to getting a loan and stuff? Like how does that can you just say, well,
yeah,
I actually do 50 grand a year of detailing. I just
that's
get paid
right.
cash.
Yeah, good point. Good point. And even when you go to sell your business too. So I've had
Yeah,
this
right.
happen a lot. So you say, oh, look, my figures don't look that great on paper, but, I take in, 100 grand of cash. And the buyer's saying, well, you can't prove that. So your
Yeah.
business is not worth that. So it's very a double-edged sword. I think, on one end you might be saving the taxes, but two, if you go to sell your business or go to get a loan, just like you mentioned, Joe, the finance broker or the bank is not going to put on that paper, oh yeah, 100 grand of cash. There's no proof. So I
Mm.
think, people listening need to just think about their future. What's the future entail? Are you wanting to buy a house? Are you wanting to, upgrade that equipment for the detailing business? If so, and you're going to need the numbers on paper there to prove that, because yeah, unfortunately, doing cashies doesn't really help that situation at all.
Yeah. Like sometimes I think it starts out as just like you're not doing it maliciously. It's just like just pay me cash. Like I don't want you
Yeah,
to pay money to the ATO or whatever someone might, think. But it is something that yeah, you need to really consider.
yeah,
I've just seen and heard of people where it's just rolled out to be something way bigger than they intended and they get into all sorts of strife.
Do
yeah.
you get
Yeah, go on,
okay?
Dad.
Do you get that joke? Because I know in our
Oh,
area,
I get
like
asked all the time.
farmers love cash, so they go, "Oh,
Yeah.
Mate, they're
take it."
pillows. They're not that like they're actually full of cash. Like they're not actually. Especially those poor
Feel like,
farmers. Tell
or
you.
the mattress or one of
Yeah.
the
Yeah, yeah,
two.
yeah. We got friends where
Yeah.
they've kind of told us where they store all their cash, like because they're kind of have a tin hat and stuff like that too. But like, their house, like between their walls, there's cash and it's just
Oh my God.
yeah. But for me, I'm like, well, I want to be able to get a loan and like we just did for a car. And it's like I wouldn't be able to do that if I was doing cash all the time. So it's
Mm,
actually a disservice to me in the long run, like you were saying, Caitlin. And I think too, like if there's any issues like just say you damaged the car, then while legally you probably don't need to, I don't know, maybe you do, but if there's no invoice, there's no proof. Like, so
yes, that's
it could
right.
probably be a bit of a disservice for the customer, even though, they could smear your name around the joint. But anyway, so I think that's something important for people to consider. Um,
Mm.
yeah. I'm ready to talk about staff. Are you, Dal?
Yeah, man. I
The
reckon
juicy
it.
part of it.
Yeah.
The juicy part.
Actually, yeah. So yeah, let's jump to this one then. Um, so when you want to employ someone, what's the best way to budget for an employee, and what other costs will we need to factor in, like superannuation, insurances, tax, all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff?
Yeah, and I think that's a massive thing in business, hey, especially when you start out in a one-man band. It's that question revolving around, am I big enough to put on an employee? Can I
Mm,
afford it? Especially if you're going to go down that permanent part-time or full-time road, because there's responsibilities with that. Bit different when, casual. You can just call them when you want, but these days people want job security
yeah,
because especially, if they're going to get their own loans or going to, get a rental property, for example, those people that are, renting out to them want to see that they can pay their rent. So it was even a big thing for us on the farm. So with the farm being, you don't know what the weather's doing. One day it's
yeah,
perfect, next minute, and being up here in Innisfail, it could be cyclone or flooding or any type of disaster. And for us, putting on a full-time employee was a big gamble
yeah,
that we took. We did end up doing it because, he's a treasured, part of our business, but it's scary. It's so scary. And I'm not going to downplay that because even in the back of my brain, I'm thinking, okay, if we get wiped out tomorrow, how are we going to afford to
Mm.
pay him?
yeah.
So, there's a
A
lot of
detailer's
things.
nightmare would be like if it's pouring or pouring down rain and people
Yeah,
just don't want to get their car detailed or what have you. Yeah.
yeah. I think that was even me, Joe, to you. I was
Yeah.
like getting the cruiser detailed, and I'm like, oh,
I'm not
don't. I
coming
don't
in if
want
it's
to do it
raining.
today. It's raining.
Yeah.
It's raining. I want it to look good for at least a week.
Yeah.
So, and that's, very, very similar to a lot of industry. So I think the planning process is very important. So again, for the guys listening, just go and talk to your accountant and make sure, look at your figures. Look at the month like by month. He might even have a little bit of a cycle of jobs, cash flow, and that type of thing, and just make sure that you do the numbers that you can afford to have somebody on.
Mm.
Yeah.
Because yeah, I mean, there's nothing worse than you don't want to say to your staff member, sorry mate, can't pay you today. Like,
Yeah.
that's just insane. But and the other thing too, you've got to think about the extra costs. So like you mentioned before, the superannuation, Joe, the work cover insurance. So, you've got to pay your employees insurance. And yeah, any other costs, I guess, staff requisites that if you need to purchase things for them to do the job. But yeah, just making sure that you've got that cash flow there. And hopefully, if you do put an employee on, it's going to boost your productivity.
Yeah.
Yep.
What's your recommendation, if you can say, like when it comes to superannuation, do you like to do you recommend just putting that money aside in a separate account that you can't draw from to really just protect that you don't, use it because it's like not yours, like
Yeah.
it is your employees' money, and same with tax, because sometimes it's like you have all that money in an account and then it's like the emergency expense comes up and you're like, I'll just use it. Or because with
Yep.
super, I think it's going that you have to make the transaction weekly. Isn't that where it's going? Or is it
Yeah,
monthly?
so it's per pay cycle. So
Okay.
it's going to be interesting how the pay cycles change going forward. So I believe it's next year that it's starting. But if you get paid fortnightly, your super's got to get paid fortnightly. So I'm interested to see. It's going to be one of those watch this space type of things to see whether people are going to change to monthly pay cycles, just so they don't have to pay the super as regularly.
Mm,
But for me, and I know with a lot of the clients here, we pay their super monthly just
yeah.
for cash flow reasons. It's a lot, and it doesn't cost you any more to do that, especially if you're on accounting software like Xero. It's 2 or 3 clicks and it's paid. It automatically comes out of your account. So just having that consistency of paying it. But if you're talking about your GST and your PAYG withholding, I think definitely, setting up another bank account's a great idea to start, and just putting away that bit of money there. So when you do have to come and pay your BAS or your tax bill, that you're there ready to go.
And what if someone's listening and they're an employer and they have an employee and they're
Mhm.
just like, I haven't paid any of their super, and then
Yeah.
a massive like you know swallow of guilt. What should they
Yeah.
do? Like,
So
what should they do?
yeah, so definitely, go and see your accountant straight away. The tax office have now come out with super guarantee charges. So if you are behind in your super payments, there's an extra bit of compliance that you have to complete now. So it's a form or a spreadsheet that the tax office have. Each quarter, you've got to put the employee's name, what was owing, and then you will get interest and a fee on top of that. So, it's not just paying the super and then that's it. If you're a year behind, you got to get charged interest and also fees from the ATO. So,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, it's and aware, and I can see where the interest part is. I understand that because if the money was going into the super fund of the employee, then that money would be invested.
invested. Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah,
the employees are missing out on that money, it not being in their super fund. So, hence the interest charges. But, the tax office are handy with payment plans. So, do the forms, get them lodged, and then get a payment plan set up so you can get them knocked
yeah.
over. But yeah, I just don't think super's not an area where you want to mess
What's
around
up?
with. It's yeah,
Mm.
definitely even now with because all the AI stuff that the tax office have, it's because they're automatically checking every, second of the data that's coming through now with single touch payroll. So they know if you don't pay on time, you're going to get a letter
Yeah,
straight away. So to save getting those nasty red letters from the ATO, I just think making sure that you've got your compliance up to date and even maybe approach a bookkeeper to help you out.
yeah, yeah. I'll ask a quick one, and I'll shoot to you, mate. But
Mm.
if you're an employee, or like, no, well, as an employer, and we've hired a young person, just say he's like 16 or something, like, I guess we could just do a Google search, but we'll ask you since you happen to be here. Like, how old is the required age that you need to pay superannuation? Like, yeah, how old do they have to be? Or
So
when
it
are you able not to pay it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's sorted. They've changed the rules on this now. So you've got to pay super per pay run now.
Yeah,
So before it was you could earn up to a certain amount a month before you had to pay super. But again, depending on the circumstances, um, you know, superannuation has got to be paid on ordinary times earnings. So
Yeah. But even like, what if they're like 15 and they're just working at a after school cleaning up or something? Do they still need, are they still, need to be paid superannuation?
depends on the situation. I think that's
Oh, right.
probably one just to go and get some, talk to your accountant about that. But if they've got a tax file number and doing all the right, it depends on how long they're working and that type of thing.
Okay.
If they've quit school, there's a lot of different things to look at, Joe, around that
Yeah.
area.
Okay.
But yeah, this is just one of those things that go and
Case by case.
yeah, case by case, go and talk to your
Interesting.
advisor. Yeah.
Cool. Probably another one about with putting money aside for tax and GST. So
Yeah.
that's probably a big thing that not everyone would think about at the end. Having all this money in your account and then you go, I've got to pay GST back.
Yeah. That's exactly right. Yeah, it's just one of those hidden things. And I like to say to people, that 10% of GST, just think about it that it's not your money, essentially. You're adding it onto your invoices, and that's for the government, really. So if you want to be safe and maximum, without taking any deductions out, just take the 10% off and put it into an account.
Yep. Probably another one with that, as from I learnt from starting out, how soon to be sort of registered for GST as well. So that was a thing that we weren't earlier on back in the day.
Yeah. So the limit now is 75,000. So you've got to earn up to 70 or over 75. It is voluntary though, Dale. So if you want to register for GST at any point in time, you can. But 75,000 is the limit. Then you have to register for GST.
Yep. Cool. Yep. And probably another one as well, starting out, like this is all very similar to, and there probably are people like us, where you move up, register for GST, then we'll sort of like where you go into a partnership or into a company or, how does that work as well? Like, is that similar stage?
Yeah. So
How big you go? Yeah.
Yeah. So when to change structure, you're meaning?
Yep.
Yeah, I think this is a really important one too that I have a lot of discussions with people around is when to change from sole trader to company. Now, for me, company, or if you want to utilize a family trust as well, that's another option there. But asset protection is the biggest number one thing for me. That's the most important. So in any industry, if you're in a sole trader, you are the one that's liable. So if something does go pear-shaped, it's you and your assets that are up for grabs. So let's just say, for the detailing business, you did something absolutely crazy on somebody's car and it just really messed with it. Going to take a lot, to fix type of thing. And unfortunately, your insurance doesn't cover you. That means, it's you that's liable. So if somebody does want to sue you per se, and I think the other thing too that I will bring up is that if you've got employees, I think it's definitely time to talk to your accountant about changing structure, because if something goes wrong with an employee, whether they, stand on a nail or do something like that, insurance are going to try and not pay. Right? People say to me, oh, I've got my insurance, that'll cover me. But insurance is like they're in their own business too.
Yeah.
If they can work out to, how they not pay you, then they will. So it's very important to keep that in the back of your brain. But if you were in a company structure, it's the company's assets only that's up for grabs. So if something was bad to happen. So I think it's very important, especially when you're scaling and getting, a lot busier, you've got staff on, you've got heaps of cars coming in and out on the daily, to definitely have a look at that tax structure. There is, it is a con, I guess, is it's a bit costly to set up for your one-off fees. And you do have to do an extra tax return when you've got a company or a family trust. But for me, just think, for the extra few $1,000s that you've got to pay in accountancy fees or ASIC fees, outweighs that of the potential hundreds of thousands that you could be sued if something does go wrong. But again, case by case situation as well. So depending on the size of the business and all the different aspects of the risk, and also the industry too. Like I'd say for an electrician that's in a pretty risky business, if something does go wrong, when you're paying with electricity, definitely, look at changing tax structures, that's for sure.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, so asset protection number one, and then of course your taxes number two. So the good thing about companies is you do get a 25 cents at the moment tax rate, which is your second lowest tax rate that you can get. Individuals can go up anywhere over that 40 cents mark, depending on the year. So yeah, big
So you're
tax
saying
savings as
there,
well.
so you're saying there for each dollar of profit, 25 cents will go
Yes,
to as tax if you're a
correct.
company. But if you're
Yes.
still a sole trainer and just say you're very profitable, which detailing businesses can be,
Yep.
you could put yourself in a tax bracket that owes the ATO 40%, like 40 cents per
Yeah,
dollar. Is that correct?
that's right. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. So just remembering individuals, they're marginal, and they're averaged out over the different rates. It's not like 40 cents on the dollar, like
Yeah, yeah.
per dollar, just like companies. But yeah, looking at that average tax rate paid is very important, and that's something that we do in tax planning as well. Just making sure that we're getting the optimal tax rates when we can.
Are you able to claim more if you're a company or a family trust or what have you, like then as opposed to a sole trader?
No, I think the expenses are pretty much relative.
The
Like
same? Yep.
anything that's work related, is a tax deduction.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Um, how do we make sure our accountant's doing the best job for us? Like, what information should we be giving the accountant to be actually be helpful? Like to give them context, to let them know
Mm.
more. Do we want to let them know exactly what we're doing or so that they can get a better understanding of how a business functions, so that they can think of ways for us to minimize our tax? Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I think it's definitely worth being proactive, Joe. Like I love when clients come in here and just want to work with me. We're spitballing ideas, coming up with different ways of how to do business, and trying to get that best result. So I think, being proactive as a client is something that accountants do want to see, and asking the questions too, and just saying, hey, I thought, is it worth maybe having a look at a different tax structure, or can we do tax planning? I mean, ideally, if you're in an accounting firm that offers those services, we're hoping that they do offer them to you before you ask. But yeah, if you're not getting the service at the moment, just ask the question.
yeah, good. Oh, awesome. Um, is buying a car a great way to reduce your minimize your tax?
Yeah, so it depends on the size of the vehicle as well. So there's a lot of different rulings. So if you're looking at over 1 ton vehicles compared to cars, you do run
Mm.
into a fringe benefits tax issue if they are cars, which definitely go and seek advice around FBT, as it is one of the highly audited areas. I think I got some stats from the ATO saying it's around an $8 to $9 billion revenue stream that the tax office is missing out on at the moment because
Mm.
people are not taking FBT seriously. So just for those listening, if you're unsure about what FBT is, I like to explain it to people as that, if you buy a car in the company name, so for example, I do it for myself. I've bought my cruiser that Joe loves detailing so much through our farm company.
Absolutely.
Um, and because that car is not used 100% for work, I essentially have to pay the company back. And I explain it to people as a thank you company for letting me use the company car for the whole year. Because essentially our farm company is paying the electricity, the insurance, the fuel, all the things for that car. But it's not a farm vehicle. So there's a calculation that needs to be done and a tax return. But if it's all done correctly, then it can definitely work out to be a benefit tax-wise, because you're claiming all the tax deductions and things as well, depreciation, all the different aspects of claiming a car, but just making sure that fringe benefits tax is being looked at by your accountant. So if you are in a company or a trust and you've got a car, not a ute, a car in there, and there's no fringe benefits tax shown on your financial statements, just ask your accountant the question.
Yeah, wow. Oh, that's good.
Mm.
Probably similar to
Okay.
the vehicle being 100% used as well. Like there's less dramas with that, correct?
Of course, yeah. So if you've got, for example, my husband's ute's farm ute, right? That's all it's used for, nothing else. 100% that's claimed through the business. Yeah, no problems there, but just making sure that, like I said before, cars are going to be a highly audited area with fringe benefits tax. So just making sure that you're accounting for it in the right ways.
Yeah. What on the lines of like claiming things, like what are common things that people would overlook as a business expense? Just, we just assume like, oh, didn't think of that. Like, yeah, I thought that I
Yeah.
wouldn't be able to claim that. Like, what are some good things to take note of?
Yeah, so I like to say to people, have a think about what it takes to run your business. So if that expense, is directly related to producing income, then you can claim it. So, for example, if you're using your telephone and your internet for work, if you're got electricity or anything like that, repairs and maintenance, those types of things, just making sure that you're keeping the records, but also claiming those things. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's just, if you can just think about, do I need to do this to do my job? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Then that'll be your answer, really.
So I'll put myself in the spotlight. So since I have a home business, people come to my place, they drive up my driveway, and um, like it's definitely not perfect, but I try to have like my front lawn look nice and have like a nice garden, just those first impressions.
Mm,
Purely because we're in the business of like visuals, like detailing. It's all about what people see, and people judge a book by its cover, whether it's right or wrong, but we do.
Mm,
And especially I believe in this in a detailing world. So yeah, like I bought a good mower, I got a whippersnipper. I want to keep I want to do stuff for the garden and yes, kind of like it's nice on a personal on a weekend to look at, whatever. But I like because people do drive in, they're like, oh, you got a really nice place here. That's great, and it's like it starts with a positive conversation. So if I got in a fight with the ATO, I'd be using that to argue like that's why I had to buy this mower because I need to make sure my business is presentable
mm.
on this property. Is that a worthy cause, or am I just going down a rabbit hole?
Oh,
Be
let's be
honest,
honest,
be honest.
Joe.
Come on.
Let's be honest, Joe. I think, people try to claim things and push the limits. I mean, if you wanted to be on the money, you can do private use percentages of
Oh
different
yeah, yeah,
things. So, like let's just say it was even a car, right? Or something, asset that you've bought and you say, okay, that's roughly 20% used for work. I'll just claim 20% of
yeah,
that piece of equipment. Now, that's an option. I mean, but let's be honest, people probably just do push the buck and claim it
yeah,
all. I
yeah.
don't think the tax office is blind by by that, but yeah, just being
Because it is,
careful.
yeah, because it is interesting with cars. Because you could use a car for your business and have it fully wrapped, right? So it's a billboard on wheels, but you're using it for private use. But it's like, but it is a business expense. Like I bought it for the business to advertise. Yes, I picked the kids up from school in it. And yes, we might drive halfway across the country on a family holiday, but I'm advertising, like,
Yeah, yeah.
and so it's a probably bit of a gray area where you just trust your accountant to make the right judgment on what you should and
Yeah.
shouldn't do.
And that's where those fringe benefit tax
Right.
calculations come into play, Joe. So you'll probably heard, terms like statutory method or logbook, people using logbooks to keep their percentage of work-related kilometers. And that's, the calculation's pretty involved with FBT, but you're still, being able to claim all those things, but as long as you're doing the FBT return and calculation, you're okay.
Yeah. Wow.
Can you be
Cool.
caught out with that? Like down the track, they go, "Oh, you haven't paid any, and you've been using it
Oh yeah,
incorrectly."
definitely, Dale.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's crazy. I heard one of the because every week I get sent updates from the accountants daily, it's called, and different rulings that the ATO have gone to Supreme Court or the High Court about. And there was this one story that they told there about a lady got audited for fringe benefits tax, and it was her car, and they were claiming it 100% for the business. And because she lived down in a metropolitan area, she said, I'm just drive around here. This is, just for work stuff. And they got the toll records. So they caught her on the toll going out to wherever. And so the tax office said, okay, where were you going at this time and this date? Because they got her photo of her car,
Wow.
and she was like, oh yeah, sorry, I was going to a kid's birthday party or something like that. So, and
Ooh.
so they said, okay, so it's not 100%, used for work. So, and as technology and all those types of things start coming in, my mind was blown that they'd got, the tolling data and all that type of thing when she was audited. So,
Mm.
not to scare you folks on listening, but just making sure that you're doing all the right things, that you're not, essentially waving a red flag at yourself saying, come and audit me.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
I think that the other one I heard was like just putting your business sticker on the back window now just doesn't fully cover you either. I
No,
believe,
no,
yeah,
it used to be. Yeah, it
yeah,
used to be, but not anymore, Dale. No, it's
yep.
fringe benefits tax is a huge area at the moment. That yeah, definitely go and seek advice from your accountant if you don't see that FBT reported anywhere.
That was a good one.
I was just thinking, like, what's something that you're finding? Have you heard of that accountants out there are not doing that they should be for their customer? Like, I experienced a few things when, like, I'll just make a known. Obviously, we switched over to your services, and we found that there were things that we thought were being considered and added into our
Mm.
tax return or whatever that we expected, and it wasn't,
Yeah,
and it would have made a huge change if they did, and so that was a great disappointment when you guys discovered that.
yeah,
So what are some things that we should be checking in if people who already have an accountant that are happy or maybe they're not happy, and just to do like ask a few questions that might not so much catch the accountant by surprise, but just to make sure that they are ticking the right boxes? What would you suggest?
I just think, making sure that the accountant's keeping regular contact with yourself. I know I like to involve myself in clients' businesses, like for yourself, Joe. Like I've come to your house,
Yeah.
checking out what you're doing. So I understand in my brain how things work,
Yeah.
what can claim, what you can't claim. I think, and at sometimes, in the accountancy industry at the moment, everyone's struggling for staff. So I just think as well that the time factor isn't there for people. They're just doing the compliance for the tax returns, getting them lodged. And like we said before, it's too late to make any changes, at that point in time, because the financial year's over. So having discussions during the year. Another service that I like to do with my clients that's been pretty popular around the area is management reporting. So what management reporting is we come in every quarter and we have a chat how the business is running in real time. So can you change any sorts of things then, whether it's invoice templating or, looking at staff productivity or, cash flow, those types of things. So being a lot more involved and asking the questions that can really help people, because I think, when you're there and you're being able to be contactable and really, I even use the terms now, like our business or our, like I put myself in there so much that, I really put, my heart and soul into helping people.
Cool.
So I just think that, if you're not getting that from your accountant now, then maybe might be, worth having a look around.
So it's more like shifting to not just once a year, like, you hear from them once a year. It's actually that they should actually want to reach out maybe a few times a year and get to know their customer more and also help on the business journey a little bit.
That's right.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think it's a big thing. You're not, like I was mentioning before with AI, a lot of, what we're doing here is going to be taken over by computers pretty soon. So the advice piece is going to be, predominantly where accountants are going to be placed in the future. So making sure that, you're there for your clients and that any questions, no big or small, too big or small, that you can help out.
That's cool. Awesome.
No, I think that's been really good. I'm out of questions. I know that.
Yeah.
Everyone loves talking about taxes.
I'm sure everyone wake up. Come on, let's
wake up. I know it's a little bit of a boring topic, but I think, if you've got your right team in your corner, your business can drastically change.
Yeah.
So,
if you can, like you can save, you can increase your profit and more money can stay in your bank account if you're doing things right and talking to the right accountant. And so it might mean you don't have to work as much. And so, it's a win-win. So yeah. Well, this has been really, really good, Caitlin. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. No, it's great. I think it's going to add a lot of value. Hey, Dale, what do you recommend?
Yeah, man. Yeah, no, it's been really good. I know a lot of people probably, like our insurance episode, I think that probably woke a few people up. Hopefully this does too.
Yeah.
To go and talk to your accountant. And I think, even the last one, go and talk to insurance as well. They sort of probably work hand in hand. So
yes, definitely.
I've got to ask Caitlin, like, we did this with Tyrone. A few people actually have reached out to Tyrone, who was the insurance guy we had on here, because they were a bit unsure about their own insurance. Like, if someone was to reach out to you, like, and they might be in, Mount Gambier, like Dale or Western Australia, what's it like for them to contact you and just to touch base or to potentially even use your services? Like, if they're so far away, can it still work out, right?
Yeah, definitely. It doesn't matter where you're located in Australia. I've got clients all over. With computers these days, you set up similar to what we're doing now. Just have a chat over Zoom or via Teams. We do provide an initial free consult. So if any guys listening do want to, contact me, I'm happy to have a chat for the first one, and we'll be free of charge. So happy to do that.
Awesome stuff.
No problems.
Thanks, Caitlin.
Finally got it
okay.
done.
All good.
Finally got it done. How good.
Hopefully you got something out of it.
No, it's great. It was really, really good.
Yeah. All right, we'll wrap it up, and thanks again.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks so much, for having me. All good. Have a good day, hey?
Chat to you later.
Okay. See you.
Bye.
Bye.
That was another episode of the Detailing Down Under podcast. Subscribe now for everything auto detailing in Australia.